Welcome to the Author Showcase Series, presented by the South Florida Writers Association, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide literary arts and support writers. Today's guest is Carolyn McBride. Carolyn McBride is a former editor and columnist for National Geographic Traveler and graduate of the College of William and Mary. She is completing an MFA in fiction writing at Lindenwood University. Her novel, The Cicada Spring, is a coming-of-middle-age story about second chances, friendship, and the power of nature, told through the eyes of a female boat captain as she navigates a new path in life after a devastating detour in South Florida. Hi, Carolyn. How are you doing today?
Hi, good, thank you.
So tell us about your book. What was the inspiration of your novel?
Okay, it's actually a cicada, the Cicada Spring.
Oh, excuse me. Okay.
And the inspiration was it's somewhat autobiographical. My character, she's a woman at midlife. She's going through a period of transition, a single mom, empty nester. And she believes she's found her dream life in Florida. She sends her daughter off to college, quickly remarries, and moves on to her new husband's yacht in Bahia Mar, Fort Lauderdale, and thinks she's got the perfect life. But then, of course, things start to sink quickly, literally and figuratively. And she goes through these series of life quakes and ends up back in Virginia on the Potomac River, in her mom's home, trying to carve out a new path in life. So my book is actually set on a piece of land that my family has owned for years. And it's called Bonnie Bray. It's also called Bonnie Bray in the story. And my parents had intended to build their dream house on that lot. Unfortunately, time got away from them. And later, after my mom passed away in 2019, my brother and I found the plans for the home. And so when I was looking for a setting for this tale that I wanted to tell, um, I decided to build that house on our empty lot, essentially,
And
and
that,
give
and,
it
and
life.
that backdrop you have behind you, that's the town where it takes place, or
It's the town of Occoquan, which is nearby. So in the
okay.
story, my character Katie, she brings her boat upriver here, and ends up also establishing a little shop, like a gathering place for creative artists in the
So,
town.
oh, great. So what was your process in writing the book from the idea to completing it?
Well, I had always wanted to write fiction from the youngest age, but my career took me through decades of nonfiction writing. And so finally I reached a point, I'd been laid off from corporate life, and I decided, no better time than the present. And I happened to receive an ad from Georgetown University for a book incubator program. So it was write a book in a semester.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, I've got 3 months. Let me see what I can do with that. And that's the first draft was written in that time period. And so they gave us support in terms of helping us structure. We had weekly touch bases with an editor, and a developmental editor and afterward. And then since then, I've written two other books, one of which is published, and the other was for my thesis. You mentioned my master's in fiction writing. I actually just graduated last week with my
Oh,
MFA.
congratulations.
And so I'm three-quarters of the way through book number three. Again, with each of those books, my process has been through some instruction, which helps, and structure my writing. It's going to be interesting to see now that I'm out of school, um, whether I can maintain the same diligence.
And am I pronouncing it correctly? The Cicada Spring? Cicada.
Correct. Yeah.
So you wrote it in 3 months, the first draft. I mean, it's a hefty book. So how many pages a day were you writing, or how
Oh
many
my
words a
gosh.
day?
I I think I was shooting for 5,000 words a week. I'd
Okay,
have to do
wow.
the math again because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
came out, the target was for the class was something like 50,000, and I was up to 90 by the time I finished. So
Wow.
I definitely went, but at that time I pushed off a lot of other work at that time to make it happen.
And I saw one of your jobs in your bio. You wrote and edited for National Geographic Traveler. Um, what was that like? T Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, my first job out of college was at National Geographic, and it's here in Washington, D.C. So I actually lived part of my life in Virginia, on the Occoquan River, and part of it in South Florida. And that's how I know South Florida Writers Association. And so coming back to the DC area after college, I started at the Yellow magazine, which is the magazine everybody knows. I was working for a picture editor, and then eventually got into both their travel magazine, and later their kids magazine, World, which a lot of people probably remember. Um, Both are now defunct, both of those
Hmm.
magazines, unfortunately, but um, it was wonderful. I did some travel, and I ended up with a column. It was at the beginning of the internet. So you can imagine the early days of the World Wide Web when people didn't know how to book travel online. I was teaching people how to research, and how to make reservations and so forth, using computers.
Fun. And wait, what was on assignment? What was the most interesting place you got to travel? Did you get to travel anywhere on those
Yes.
assignments?
I had some wonderful experiences, but nothing exotic. Like I didn't go
Okay.
to Africa or anything, but one of my first experiences was leading a cruise down the Main-Danube Canal,
Wow.
from Frankfurt to Vienna, Austria. And I was sort of the escort for a group of about 100 National Geographic members, and on one of those river boats. So that was a really nice experience to have in your early 20s.
Yeah, that's great. And so with all your travels, how has South Florida, one of your homes now is South Florida. How has our region influenced you as a writer?
Oh my gosh. I love Florida, and I feel when I'm in Florida like I can breathe, and I try to put that into my writing. So the first 100 pages of the Cicada Spring are set in Fort Lauderdale area and also the Keys. And my third book, which is still in the works, is fully set in South Florida. Um, I just I love the bright colors, the flora and fauna, the wildness and the untamableness of Florida, no matter how hard you try.
Great. And so do you mind sharing us a little bit about the book you're writing right now about your thesis?
Oh, sure, yeah. So it's called, tentatively called, Best Life Yet. And it's about so all of my characters, by the way, are women at midlife, are my main characters. And I write about the coming of middle age transition. So, a lot of people find after the kids have left the house, maybe marriages aren't solid anymore. Maybe their jobs, either they've been laid off, or it's just not working for them anymore. And they're they're kind of re-navigating what life is for them. And so in this story, my character, she thinks that she is set for life. She's living in a retirement community in Central Florida, and married, and comfortable. And then on her wedding anniversary trip to Maui, her husband announces that he's leaving her for his pickleball partner. And she's completely, thrown for a loop because she thought, the golden years would be with him. So moments later, they decide to take one last snorkel out in the ocean, for old time's sake. and he suddenly drowns. That's the very
Oh,
beginning of the
wow.
book, so I'm not really giving anything away. Um, and she then is faced with confusing loss because she's also going through a lot of pain, and also she's discovered that he's left her with nothing, virtually nothing, and he's already changed his will, and
Oh,
she's got to start over from scratch at midlife. And so then it becomes a journey of transformation, and all of my characters are women at the helm. So ultimately, they become women at the helm of their own lives, but they all are boaters in one form or another. And so her answer to everything is to take this one life insurance check she gets and buy a boat and try to make a new life on the water. And so that is her journey.
with this being your third book, did it get any easier, or is each one a challenge from your first two? Is each one
Um, they're different, I guess, because the first two are part of a series that I created called Potomac Shores series. So the second is a novella. It's like a Christmas rom-com with some of the same characters from the first book. So that was like a continuation. This book is fresh, and I so the work involved in world building, and character development you have to start over from scratch when you're not carrying along a series.
and are there any books or movies or TV shows or anything that's influencing your new work?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's certainly a lot of craft books that I refer to. Um, I'm not good with names. There's
Sure.
there's a mystery detective show that's set in the Keys. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's really popular right now. It's
The
it's
Bad Monkey? Was it the Bad
Bad
Monkey?
Monkey,
Okay,
Bad
I haven't
Monkey.
seen it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm trying to, ingest some suspense and some humor in the story, and have like a character who's always kind of even if things are bad things are happening to her, she's always kind of the lighthearted, laugh it off, you know. And then there's always the one who's kind of like, oh no, woe is me.
Great. Is there anything else you want to say that we haven't had a chance to ask you about, or anything you want to talk about?
Um, Maybe just to mention some of the themes that are in my book. So I my first, well, it's the Cicada Spring. A lot of people in my reviews referred to it as environmental fiction. I try to incorporate a lot of the natural world, and I think that comes out of just my background with National Geographic and growing up on a river like the one behind me. We were always, my brother and I, outside roaming the woods, and on my dad's boat. um, and then another theme is preservation. So when I wrote The Cicada Spring, I was in the midst of cleaning out my mother's house after she had passed away. And so I actually, and a lot of people at midlife have that experience. And so, kind of learning more about my parents' stories and then incorporating some of those things into the book so that I could save them, even though I was getting rid of them, objects of my life. And then, thirdly, all of my stories have strong female friendship bonds in them. And these women, I call them in the Cicada Spring and the second book, Santa Overboard, the beach bonfire babes. And they meet monthly around a bonfire. And they've known each other for decades. So they're there to kind of remind each other, at your core, what were your dreams when you were a teenager, and how did your life kind of maybe go off that path, and how can you get back to it? How can you get back to the things that you always wanted in life, and that maybe the commitments and responsibilities of, raising children, and, financial burdens, took over.
Great. Well, thank you, Carolyn, so much for your time.
Thank you too. I really appreciate
And
this.
have a great day, everyone.
All
See you
right.
next time.